Welcome to Houston Real Estate Radio. I'm your host, Shannon Register, and today we're very excited about the show that we have planned for you. We've got Hank Moore joining us. He is one of the Houston legends, so we're so excited to have him joining us on the program. Today, we're going to be talking, we're still keeping it real estate, we're going to be talking about how the Whitehouse is going to impact your house. You know, there's a lot of chitter-chatter talk out there about what's going on with politics, and especially since Ted Cruz is now out of the running, things really took a turn, and it's really interesting. I want to talk about this because a lot of people have put their plans for buying and selling homes kind of on hold, just kind of on the back burner to figure out what is going to happen. Some of that has to do with oil, but some of that has to do with politics. So I brought in Hank Moore to talk about this. He's written lots and lots of books on business and just all kinds of great things. If you just Google his name, you'll see so many wonderful things about him. Hank, tell us a little bit about your history with politics, because I think that you have a great perspective.
Well, I was the youngest White House advisor in history. And from ages 16 through 21, I was a White House advisor, a policy advisor, not a political advisor. And I worked for President Johnson, and my areas of expertise at that young age were civil rights, environmental, international trade, and the World's Fair, which we had in San Antonio. And one of the pieces of legislation that I was involved in writing, and again, I was a teenager because someone has to provide the committee the youth perspective, and I did. I was on my very first assignment, I was on the committee that wrote the Civil Rights Act of '64, the Fair Housing Act, and some of
Which
the other...
Which we still follow today.
Yes, and that was part of the Johnson Great Society in 1964. And so I had a lot of background with the Johnson family. I'd worked for them for 5.5 years. Before that, I started as a disc jockey in their radio station, but I was always very issue-oriented. And, real estate is going to do very well. It doesn't really matter who of the two candidates happens to be elected. The reason being that real estate is such a fundamental part of our economy. We knew that back in the Johnson years. I was later an advisor to George H.W. Bush. I was one of the 4 people that created 1,000 Points of Light. And part of it was not necessarily real estate related, but the common thread is that the more people work together, the economy is going to boom. You know, we've climbed out of the current recession. I'm not predicting the next one until another 12 years. There has to be recessions, but because real estate, retail, they're so closely related, are going to continue doing so well, that's going to stave off the next recession. And that cannot be underestimated, the importance of real estate and then the building professions. And I've worked with, it's all hand in glove with solid progress, not being veered off by temporary political spats, but building collaborations. My boss, President Johnson, used to say, "Come, let us reason together." And yes, that was a period in Washington when there was more cooperation going on, but that period will come back. And frankly, whoever's elected president, it's time for the cycle of collaboration to come back.
I think you get more done that way.
The only way to get things done. I mean, research tells us that all of us agree on 95% of everything. It's that 5% where we disagree, and when we magnify it, that gets us in trouble.
Okay, let's talk about the difference, though, between Hillary and Donald Trump, because Hillary is such a bureaucrat, such a politician, a polished politician, just because she's done it for so long. And Donald Trump was always into real estate and business, and so they have very different lives, very different focus. How do you think that's going to impact the White House?
Well, both of them are going to have to veer a little more toward the middle. Hillary, a large part of what I've never met either of the candidates.
I've met Hillary.
Good. I've met lots of presidents. I have performed think tanks for 5 U.S. presidents as a speaker, but one of those presidents was not one one of the current candidates. I mean, and I never met Bill Clinton. The only time I ever did a program for Bill Clinton was on the stage at Temple University years ago when they had the nonprofit summit. I was the opening speaker and thus the warm-up act to Colin Powell. But I think that Trump's business background will bring a lot to the table. I think that Hillary's background, and I don't know that I would call her a bureaucrat. I would call her a community. In the Obama campaign, they called it, community organizer. There's something about her and her causes
it's a pretty term.
that they learn to bring people together that wouldn't come together. So either way, they're going to each bring something to the table, and the main part is they're going to get people talking and engaged again. And even the people that came out of the Sanders campaign, the fact that somebody was able to mobilize young people again, we haven't seen that in about 15 to 20 years. So everything goes in cycles, like I say. When I was active in the White House, that was, when the baby boomers we were all saying things like, don't trust anybody under 30. But what we learned to do
now everybody praises the millennials.
Oh, absolutely. Love millennials, by the way.
Used to want to be older because I could be more esteemed. Yeah. Now I want to be younger to be a millennial.
That's right. And that's the important thing about it is we have such a diverse society, and politics does very little to shape it. Business does more.
Yes. And small business does a big chunk of that. The biggest
part, 99.7% of all business starts are small business. They have a higher staying in business ratio to the big corporations.
But there are a lot of small businesses that have been hugely impacted by policies that have come out of the Obama administration, from healthcare to just all kinds of different things have affected them, and a lot of small businesses have had to close because of it. Do you think that there's any difference for small business whether Hillary or Donald go into the White House?
No, because small business is going to do what they do very well. One of the things that I really believe about small business, I have worked with, as a corporate strategist, I have advised 5,000 companies over the years, including small businesses, but also including 100 of the Fortune 500. I advised Disney, Marriott, Hewlett-Packard, AT&T, Texaco in reorganizing. Here's what I believe about small business, much to their credit. Heads of small business and small business professionals wear about 10 hats every day.
Yes.
And guess what? They get to be really good at 8 of them, which is 7.5 hats more than the average corporate mid-manager is ever good at. So small business, my best advice to small business, no matter who's president, is learn to speak for yourself, learn how to build collaborations. I mean, collaborations, partnering, and joint venturing.
And diversify.
Very much so. Don't be stuck in the past, because those corporations will be stuck in the past. In the last recession, which it took us a while to climb out of, and I had been predicting that recession, by the way, for 20 years, people didn't want to listen. And what happened was it all started with banking deregulation and with a political bent that was trying to deregulate everything. Well, one thing that I like about the real estate industry is it is not only regulated, but it's ethically organized, and there is an accountability that you just can't legislate away. And I say great for that, and let other small businesses remain true to their mission, but work together with others. They got to work together.
Okay, we're going to go to a break, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about how the White House impacts your house. We know that legislation affects a lot of things, so that's what we're talking about today, what the difference in the candidates are, and how it's going to impact your ability to purchase a home in the future, sell your home in the future, and the housing market in general. So we'll be right back with Hank Moore here on Houston Real Estate Radio. He is one of Houston's legends and wrote the book Houston Legends, and has written a lot of other books as well. Google him, find out lots of great information on him. We'll be right back here on Houston Real Estate Radio, and you can find the video online at HoustonRealEstateRadio.com if you want to share it, or if you missed any of today's show. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
People often find themselves in need of storage and moving, but don't want the hassle and stress. Sound familiar? Well, at Zippy Shell, we make storage and moving easy. Zippy Shell will deliver a storage container to your home or business. You load it at your leisure, and we'll take it to one of our safe, convenient storage facilities, or ship it to your final destination. We treat your stuff like it's our stuff, because we understand you're not just giving us your belongings, you're giving us your trust. Zippy Shell. Storage and moving that makes life simple.